Alright, I am back with a Horizon Forbidden West video. I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to do because we have the Witch Queen coming out on Tuesday, and I am going to play as much of this as I physically can until then, but I can already tell that that is definitely not going to be enough to get through the game in its entirety. As you may have heard, Sony does not give me review copies anymore for reasons that remain completely unexplained to me, but joke's on them because I really love this game a lot and probably would have given it a very good review. I am 7 or 8 hours in so far, so it is too early to judge kind of a lot of things, but I really loved Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game, a lot more than I thought I would. I think that game was kind of a surprise to everyone, just given that it seemed like just a total unknown from, you know, the Killzone studio, and like, what are these robot dinosaurs, and like hunting them with bows and arrows, and like, what is this universe? But turns out it was really good, and that became kind of a new era cult PlayStation hit. Well, not cult. It sold 20 million copies, so not cult, but a very, very big force for PlayStation going forward, which led to the sequel. And the sequel is kind of bigger and more expansive in every way, and it's a cross-gen like PS4, PS5 game, and yet is able to kind of it's a new game kind of early on, just, you know, in the first year here, but it is pushing the envelope in many, many ways. There are some, I have, you know, almost all praise for it so far. There's some things that are jumping out at me as it could be a little better, but we'll see how things go as time goes on. This time around, we do not have the awkward Aloy as a child sequence, so no scary looking Aloy kid there. And we just kind of pick up after the last game left off. I've talked about, like, I wrote an article about like recap videos and stuff you can watch, and they do a little bit of a recap before the game starts. There's no like big, like, you lose all your gear Assassin's Creed moment thing, or like all your gear and skills. They don't really cover that. It's just sort of a natural progression of, like, you're not going to keep all the stuff from the first game. It was 5 years ago. You know, it's totally different now. So I don't think they needed like a lore explanation as to where all your stuff went. I am been slowly amassing new gear, but you can get a pretty good pile of weapons and things pretty early on. The vendors each sell, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 new weapons apiece. So I already have a full weapon wheel, which is like the regular bow, the bow with acid arrows, fire arrows, the sniper bow, the warrior bow, an ice slingshot, 2 different kinds of javelin throwers, including one that is explosive javelins, which very much remind me of the Attack on Titan lances that blow Titans' necks up and stuff. And it blows off armor and stuff, but it also destroys components, so there's some pros and cons there. I kind of forget how this loot system works, where like you can upgrade all of the stuff like 3 times with materials, but then I think you're going to get kind of better versions of these later, and I've already started seeing like, oh, this is a new sniper bow, but it's also got an inherent like 10% knockdown damage bonus in it, in addition to like the mod slots and stuff it has. As for my playstyle here, I am going through the game just kind of all out assault. I'm not really messing around with having Aloy slink around in the grass and taking things out. Like, if I can do that for the first couple kills in an encounter, I will, but I am going heavy into the spear, bow, and potion trees. Potion because I'm going to need to heal quite a bit, and the potion upgrades that are like 100% more health when you heal are actually very useful. And the spear has a lot of different combos and things. It has a new mechanic where you can like build up a charge if you hit an enemy enough times, and then if you shoot the kind of charge thing you attach to an enemy, it blows up and does like an AoE explosion that will probably kill them and stuff near them. And then I have just started to kind of invade my first few enemy camps that are human enemies, which they still have armor, but it's not quite to the same extent as the robots, and I'm just kind of rolling in there with my warrior bow and sniping everyone in the face at close range, which is working out just fine so far. I have not, there's a whole tree for like taming the wildlife and stuff like that, but I haven't really gone down that yet because I have not found any of the, I forget what they're called, like vaults or arcs, or not arcs, that's Lost Ark. The things that let you control like new types of monsters. I haven't kind of fully explored that yet, so I'm not exactly sure if you'll be able to max every tree by the end of this game, but given how far down the trees I've been so far and how far into the game I am, it seems like you're going to get just a ton of skill points because all these individual missions, including side missions, give you skill points, and then leveling up gives you skill points. And I'm like halfway down, at least two of the trees already, and I'm not that far in yet. So, hour 40, 50, 60, that seems like something you'll be able to do. And also, I think you can just sort of farm the game as much. I don't know what the level cap is, or if there is one, but enemy kills give you a good amount of XP, so you can just kind of farm enemies in addition to doing quests if you really want to do that, although that's not really necessary given how much there is to actually do. One thing that is standing out to me in a very positive way is how the game is handling quest lines, specifically side quests. I am very, very exhausted with open world games for the most part. I think I've talked about this before, but like I did not finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla because it was just so huge and I got very tired of it. I barely got into Far Cry before I realized how big it was going to be and how much stuff I had to clear, and I was just like, nope, don't want to do it, just don't care. And like I'm suffering from kind of open world map clearing fatigue, but Horizon looks to address that in that there doesn't seem to be kind of like too much like nitty gritty kind of collectible map clearing stuff that you have to do, and a lot of it feels pretty optional in a way that it might not for other games. And then what the game does with side quests is, at least so far, all of the ones I've come across so far do not feel like busy work. They feel like substantive, interesting quest lines that kind of go above and beyond what the genre is normally used to. I wrote an article today about how impressed I am with the NPCs just in terms of their visuals and their voice acting and performance capture. This is easily the best series of NPCs I have ever seen in an open world game like this. Usually, you don't know what I'm talking about. Like if you're getting a random quest from a random person with a question mark over their head or an exclamation point over their head in an open world game, chances are they're not going to be the most interestingly rendered or performed character in the game, because there's just, when you're making a game this big, like you're going to put a lot of focus into like your core group of characters, but like everyone else is like, random townsperson X or Y. Horizon doesn't do that. Horizon, I read an article before this where it was like they were talking about how all Horizon NPCs would all have unique personalities, and everyone was like, okay, whatever. But that's true. They do. They really do have their own kind of personalities and their performance capture where they feel like unique characters that are not afterthoughts. And like I don't know if I'm even going to see any of these people past the individual quests they give me, but like there's a quest that's go find these dudes in a mine, and like you go and you meet the foreman, and like then you go and meet the miners inside of it, this cave, and it's like this whole kind of puzzle Tomb Raider-y sequence to kind of figure out how to drain the water in the cave and get everyone out of there, and like there's treasure and stuff. And it's not just like go here, tick a box to find one guy, tick a box to find the other guy, and then leave. Like all of these things are a lot more involved in that, I'd say. The kind of lesser ones even are still pretty interesting in a lot of ways. Like there are what are essentially like hunting contracts where this armor smith wants you to track down a certain part or something. But even then he'll give you like, okay, there's a convoy coming, like here we got some traps set up here, like here's some strategies you can use to take down this type of thing. And even if it's not like an elaborate cave sequence or something, it still feels more than just like a series of tick boxes like get X, Y, and Z material. And there are a lot more kind of substantive side quests, I'd say, than there are ones that feel more on the lighter side. And all of those are bolstered by very, very good performances from both Aloy. Obviously, Ashley Birch is doing an incredible job again. But so is her supporting cast, sort of these random NPCs that have a lot more personality and life than I think anyone's given credit for. And like, I swear I recognize some of these actors, like even in some of these minor parts. Like I can't exactly place who they are every time, but like they feel like people I've seen before in like actual TV shows and things. So I'm curious to kind of go through the cast list and check things out there. Combat is interesting so far. I haven't really encountered like too many wild things yet. I know there's like 40 types of monsters or something or animals out there, but I'm starting to get further in where I'm encountering some at least a couple interesting things where I just came across I don't know what they're called, but like a pack of kangaroo monsters essentially that are jumping all around and doing these flips and like slamming me with electric tails and stuff. And there was like 6 of them, and it was total chaos. And then there are now enemies that human enemies that ride monsters as well, and that's like a whole plot line that I won't go into. But like they have that ability now, so you're not just fighting humans on the ground; you're fighting other humans that are riding monsters just like you, and you can have like horseback battles. Essentially, they're not horses, but you know what I mean, which is pretty interesting. And you knock them off the mount, you kill the mount, and the mount makes them go flying, and like all of this is rendered in pretty fun action sequences. I'm really enjoying kind of the open spear combat where that's kind of involves doing a lot of knockdown damage and using this new kind of charge up explosion mechanic. But it also synergizes really well with the bows. One thing about combat that is like not exactly landing for me yet is you only really have space for each weapon has one kind of special ability that's active at a time, and you can only like have one of those selected per weapon. So even though there's like I think 3 or so for each of them in the skill tree, and then there's like a super ultimate move that again you can only have one of at a time, where it's like, oh, you have 100% crit rate now, or oh, you do 40% more bow damage for a certain period of time, or oh, you take a super potion that like gives you like super health regen for 15 seconds or something. But you can only have one of those assigned at a time too. But there are so many of those. There's like at least a dozen of those that you have the option to do, but it just seems like you're not like you have access to a lot of weapons, but you don't have access to a lot of these abilities. I guess the idea is that you're supposed to change it all based on the type of monsters you're taking on or the hunt you're doing, but it feels a little limiting right now. So I don't know. We'll see how it feels in the future, but so far I'm liking the abilities I've unlocked and things like that, and it still just feels really great to knock pieces of armor off of these machines and watch them kind of splinter and crumble. It reminds me a lot of Dead Space, where just like the core mechanic of Dead Space, the idea of like cutting the limbs off enemies as opposed to just like headshotting aliens like all other games. It's a combat evolution that is kind of its own thing in terms of how great it makes the game feel and how engaging it makes combat. Like every combat encounter feels really unique from any other game because it's based on the system. This isn't really new. I mean, granted, like this is all stuff from the first game for the most part, and now there's just more weapons and more types of enemies and things, but it is still a very, very core strength of the game. And then obviously the game is it's beautiful. It's an incredibly gorgeous game. I already talked about the character models, but the environments and everything are stunning. I am playing on 30 FPS resolution favor mode because I have heard that the difference between favor resolution is like noticeable to the point where it is worth not having 60 FPS. So that's I don't know. It looks great to me, so I have no qualms with that decision. I also learned that the game loads so fast by default. They're slowing down the load screen, so you have time to read the tips, and you can change that setting so it's instant load, which I would probably recommend you do. But I just thought that was kind of funny given the state of PS5's SSD these days. This is a game that I definitely want to see through to the end. I just don't know exactly when that's going to be. My priority will shift to Witch Queen on Tuesday, and then I'm skipping Elden Ring. I just am. This isn't to say that I think Elden Ring is going to be bad or something. Like I know Elden Ring is going to be incredible and probably game of the year, but I am not really a Soulsborne person at heart here. The only Soulsborne I've really ever fully played was I did a full run of Bloodborne back in the day. I'm not like a Dark Souls person, so I know this is kind of an evolution of the franchise, but it seems like something that just with this release schedule, it's something I'm going to have to get to later. Between Horizon now, Destiny, I'm still playing Lost Ark, still trying to keep up with Genshin, Tiny Tito Wonderlands is coming, and then I'm having a kid. And so Elden Ring is going to be pushed for the foreseeable future. Eric Kane on Forbes is our big Soulsborne guy, and he will be covering that extensively, I think, so you can read his articles when that game comes out in a week. Yeah, crazy. I don't know how far I'll get in the next 3 days here, but I may do one more video about it before then, but there's obviously stuff to talk about with the Witch Queen coming up and stuff too, so we'll see where we get to, but I am deeply impressed with Horizon so far. I love almost everything about it. I can't wait to play it even more, and I am not surprised that they really killed it with the sequel, given how good the original was, given how much time they had to kind of carefully craft this, and certainly think they knocked it out of the park. We'll see how I feel by the end. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it does suffer from kind of open world bloat like I've felt with other games before, but this early on, I have pretty much nothing but positive first impressions. So those are my initial thoughts, and thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.